everybody. Welcome back to Prospero Mediations and Trainings Snippets of Wisdom, episode 4, I think this is. And this time we have Sarah Griffin, Head of Operations at Smile Mediation. So welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah. Good. Right, cool.
Well, as
long as I don't get it, but I think we're far enough apart, that should work.
Yeah.
It's living beyond the wall, that's what it is. Yeah, definitely. I think that's what I'm going to put it down to. So we'll get straight into it. Yeah. Tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and ultimately how you ended up at Smile.
Where to start with that one? I think a lot of things that have happened in my life have led me to sort of where I am. So there's been a lot of times in my life where I felt that where I now feel that mediation could have really helped to change the course of my life, but I wouldn't change it now, obviously. I'm really happy. For instance, when I was a teenager, I was homeless. I left my parental home, fell out with my stepdad. So that was the first opportunity that could have really, mediation or somebody to help me communicate how I was feeling at the time, things like that, and obviously my parents to be able to communicate. And then several times throughout my career, I've had various jobs. I worked in a bookies for about 10 years, so that were a whole period of my life that feels like another lifetime. And I think some conflict training might have helped at that point. So the ability to have difficult conversations with customers who thought they should have been paid out more money than what they were getting, and or people who wanted to put their bets on after the race had gone off, things like that. There'd be a lot of opportunity there to sort of develop the people who work in places like that. I think that would have been really helpful at the time. But then I went to uni. I did care, communities and citizenship degree. And whilst that was happening, I got a job working with homeless young people as a support worker. So obviously there could have been loads of opportunities there to help prevent that homelessness by mediating for them and their parents and things like that. Obviously the thing that brought me into that was the fact that I'd been homeless myself. So yeah, that would have been another opportunity. And also with my colleagues, you don't always see fully eye to eye, you don't always understand each other, so that could have been helpful. And then I became homelessness services lead for that. It was a charity. I was in that job for about 16, 17 years, and it changed so much over that time. It grew, and I felt that I was really able to have an impact on like a small charity it was at the time, whereas it just grew and grew and grew. And I think after about 17 years it was time for a new chapter. And I've always been interested in mediation. I've always thought, it could be really helpful, or it could have been really helpful throughout my life at various stages. And this job came into my email inbox and I thought, I could probably cover all those things that they need, actually. So I went for it. Quite a difficult interview process and everything, but I just kept going for it, and I was successful in the end. So that's how I ended up. That were a long-winded story, weren't it?
No, that's amazing. I mean, I always tell people when I'm mediating them, especially with workplace mediation, I always sit there and say, I've been where you are. I was, went through a difficult time for a period of time in the RAF, and so I know what you're feeling. I know the anxiety and all that sort of stuff. And I think I can see the impact that has on them straight away, because invariably they're all a little bit anxious about the process. They don't, even though we've explained it to them quite a lot, they're still unsure about this whole thing. So the very fact that you can express empathy with them, that you've been there, it really helps. So for you experiencing the homelessness, absolutely sort of like horses for courses. So how long were you homeless for?
I lived in a hostel for about 6 months, so consider myself to be homeless throughout that time. Yeah.
And how old were you?
16.
Wow. I mean, that's really developing stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're sort of like, you're at a crossroads there, aren't you? It either ends up where you
I'm very lucky
have
that
done very well, and or you go down the route of some of the people we mediate for who made some different choices, difficult choices, etc. So, you got the job with Smile. What was that? 3 years ago?
Nearly 3.5. Yeah. Well, yeah, 3 and 4 months.
Wow, that's flown by.
It has.
Because I think we sort of got together. I don't think it was very long after.
It wasn't long, was it?
Over there.
No.
So, you took over at Smile. What was it like when you first pitched up? So to describe the organisation that Smile was as you took over.
Okay, so when I first started working there was the other CEO still in place, Karen, and she'd been there for I think about 12 years. So things were, obviously it was her baby. She explained to me before I took the job that she was looking to retire a few months later. So the first few months of the job was really just trying to pick up everything I could from her, because it was so much hugely different to what I'd been doing. I felt like I was going from sort of something I knew everything about, having done homeless young people and things for 16, 17 years. I was going to a new world of mediation I'd never been involved in before. So yeah, I spent sort of 3 months just following her around. Sorry. I'm just going to get a drink.
So thinking about the next thing, when you arrived there, then was your initial plan to be that's like CEO running the place, or was it you were also going to do the mediations as well?
I think I always planned to get involved in the mediation side of things. I think it's important to be able to, to know what I'm talking about, what I'm selling, and what I'm developing. So yeah, and also it's just a life skill that everyone should have, really, to be able to. It's not just about helping people to communicate; it's about understanding what works, how to get better outcomes from your conversations and things. Yeah,
that inability to think things through, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I go down this route, where does that end up?
Yeah.
Or can I understand the other person's perspective even though I don't agree with it? Because up until you do that sort of conflict management stuff, or get into what we do now, you just always tend to think the other person is wrong.
Yeah.
And you dig in and you have that full-blown argument, don't you, which never ends well.
And they might be wrong, but you can still deal with it to get a better outcome.
So how many mediators were there when you first arrived?
32. There were 32 mediators, and there were myself and Ange, who at the time was admin. But she'd been there quite a long time, and she'd done a lot of different roles, which was very fortunate. Karen left, the CEO left in March, so that at that point it was just me and Ange and Ella, who was office volunteer at the time. So yeah, we had just 2 paid staff in the office. So we had to sort of knuckle down and just get through all the cases and things like that. But a couple of days after the CEO left, we became part of Resolve ASB, and everything started to grow massively after that. So Resolve are an antisocial behaviour, a national antisocial behaviour, not-for-profit organisation, and they've got a lot of housing providers, police, all types of sort of organisations that are members of their organisation. So yeah, we started to get inquiries from other housing providers. We became national rather than just focused on the north, so we got loads of inquiries from other housing providers and people nationally, and we started to deliver training further away. And now, if that's your next question, I'm assuming.
How many mediators are on now? Yeah.
Yeah, 90 now, and we've
Wow.
got, there's 5 of us in the office, but we've got somebody else starting in a couple of weeks, or 6 really, 6 roles in the office.
Wow, so it's well, trebled in size in the time you've taken over.
Yeah. Well, we had about, at the time, I think we had about 20 open cases a maximum, and there's about, I'd say, any given week, 'cause we review all the cases every week, there's about 70 now. So yeah.
My mind boggles, when we get the availability. Now, always that great idea that Tracy and I had when she trained, that we could come as a 2-ship and help you out, and we just give our, we're available all of next week. And I said, Tracy, that's such a great idea, because it also, we can help you out as well as doing what we do, and that'll be really helpful to them. And then I think after after the first bit, we're like, don't understand why this isn't working. And then it was like, because it's not quite that easy, is it? Now, Tracy and I might be available, but you now have to find a mediation that is available at the same time for us to do the 2 people and the joint meeting. And then you suddenly realise, actually, given the nature of community mediation, it isn't that easy to organise. And so our great idea almost fell on its face. So now it's trying to do it the other way around. I mean, it works. We get a few in, but it was just that, well, it must be straightforward, but it's so different organising.
It's like herding cats.
From, absolutely. I mean, from, when you do a workplace mediation, it tends to be quite good. You set it up on the day, and it's done. And I know we've done some where we've had people on Zoom for bits of it and whatever, but generally it's easier to organise. So that those girls in the office certainly earn their money, and I wouldn't do it for all the tea in China. It must be so frustrating.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of, and I, when we're taking a new coordinator on, I always try and be honest, because I don't want to sell a dream job when it is really, really frustrating. But the people who do work for us, they love working for us, because we're just such a close-knit team. We understand each other. If there's something, for instance, Liz needed to go off to Australia recently because there were a bereavement over there, and she was just going to use 2 weeks annual leave. And I said, well, why don't you just have your 2 weeks annual leave and then stay there for another 2 weeks and work, because she's part-time. She worked, I think it was 7 till 11 at night, but here it was her normal working hours, and so she was able to stay there. And now her dog's poorly. He's had an operation and is recovering, so she's able to stay at home, and we're just all sort of there for each other. And I think that sort of, people just enjoy.
Definitely comes through. Whenever I see all you guys, be it at the conference or we come up for the sort of annual get together, right? You really are a close knit team that you can just tell at a distance really enjoy working with each other, and that must really help in making it a bit more fun for a job that could be really frustrating.
Liz starts crying every time we talk about how good the job is. She won't mind me saying. She's just loves the job. She doesn't like the fact that she's having to work from home, because she likes to come into the office. It's frustrating, but it's helpful that she can. But yeah, she really, really, does love the job. She lets us know.
And you got a real star with Ella, didn't you?
Yeah.
Because the sort of apprenticeship, and she won an award, didn't she? I think.
Yeah.
At the end of her apprenticeship.
So I nominated her for Business Admin Apprentice, the Themis Business Administration Apprentice of the Year. I think it was 2024, and she was awarded that early last year. That was a good night. Too much Prosecco.
Yeah. Can you have too much Prosecco? I know.
Yeah.
Well asked, Tracy. I think Ella, for one, when again I look at her at a distance and have some dealings with her, is like, she actually completely belies the reputation of her generation.
Yeah.
Don't you? That generation has a reputation for being lazy, want everything given to them on a plate. And she completely turns out on its head.
Yeah. She's grown so much. I said to her the other week, I feel like myself and Ella have grown together in different ways. So when Ella first came to us, she was really anxious. You couldn't imagine her answering the phone, really, which is a massive thing to a lot of people, just answering the phone, not knowing what's what's going to be on the other end of the phone, things like that. And if you could see her then and then just see her now, it's just unbelievable really how much she's grown into that role, and she'd just have a go at everything, anything. She's having a go at doing her own podcasts, and she's had a lot of opportunities, I think, with us being such a small organisation with a lot of growth that she probably wouldn't have had if she'd have worked in a bigger organisation.
Yeah, she mediates too, doesn't she? So
She does.
it shows how confident she's got.
Yeah.
That's kind of thing. I've done a mediation or two with her, I think, for you guys. So 90 odd mediators. When somebody gets referred to you or pings you and says, "Hi, I'd like to get involved," or whatever, what sort of qualities are you looking for?
So we've got Ange. She's a mediator wellbeing sort of person now, thanks to the National Lottery and Forte Charitable Foundation for funding that role. And I usually sort of set them up on a meeting with her so that she can get to know them and understand, who they are really. I don't think just anybody can be a mediator at all. I think you need to have, especially with community, you need to be non-judgmental and a people person, and you need to want to understand people, and you need to be a good listener. There's all sorts of like those people skills, communication skills, that type of thing. But I think you can be from any background. But yeah, it's just you need to be a people person, and you need to be able to listen more than you speak.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key skill for all mediations, isn't it? But I have found, I don't know whether, that there is a difference between doing the workplace mediation and the community mediation, not least of all because of the time compression of it all. And the problems are always, they're different problems, albeit often the same. When you do community mediation, generally it's noise, isn't it? It's one of the big ones, or car parking, or
bins in the wrong place,
security cameras. And we say that with a sort of slight sort of grin. But when you're doing the community mediation, these things are massively important to the people that are there, and that ability to lock your own opinions away and listen to their story and provide empathy and understanding for them at the same time without, judging them and offering them solutions is key to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think
that's the big one I think that people struggle with most, and not offering them solutions. You can see something, can't you? Just like, oh, this is obvious.
Yeah.
But you just can't say it. I think that's the biggest challenge, really.
It is. I think we talk about the active listening, big skill, probably the biggest skill you have. Remembering to be neutral and keeping your biases under control, because they will all bubble up, but keeping them under control. But not just sitting and saying, well, why don't you do this and why don't you do that, and we can solve all of your problems. I think I don't know. I told you I did one for you. Oh, it's got to be a couple of years ago now, but I was trying to do that bit where you sow a seed of a solution in someone's head, but don't actually say it, and hope that they suddenly have that epiphany where they go, oh, I could do.
Doesn't happen.
And it was the bloke who was, I think it'd been going on like 10, 12 years, but every time he came out of his front door, and I imagine in my head, because that's the other thing that's really difficult, is imagining where they live. But in my head, it was a Victorian terraced house, and his front garden wall was only about 4 foot from his front door. The sort of type. That was what I imagined. But every time he came out and had a cigarette outside in his front, the next door neighbour would have a go at him. And when you do that sort of like, well, when you say every time, it's like, it is every time. So as far as this goes, every time for 10 years he'd had this cigarette. And then I wanted to say to him, well, why don't you just go smoke in the back garden? And then this neighbour won't see you. Because you can't say that, can you, offering a solution? So I'm like, well, have you got a back garden? And he was like, what's that got to do with it? And then he sort of stopped, and he's like, are you telling me I need to go and smoke out in the back garden? And then he's like, how dare you tell me where to smoke? And I knew at that point I'd lost it. And it was like, so I let him calm down. And I'm like, I just asked a question. I'm trying to understand, trying to understand what the configuration of your house looks like for your neighbour. But he had completely lost it by then. And I was like, I'll tell you what, I think we'll stop here and we'll see, we'll get you another mediator, because, you can clearly, I've blown it with you. But yeah, so that.
It's easy done with stuff like that all the time.
And it was like, well, I wasn't going to tell you, I was going to explore with, I've got a back garden. So, blah, do you ever take a smoke in the back garden? Yes. What happens then? Nothing. All right.
So what would you ask now?
Yeah.
If you could do that again?
Well, I would sit there and say, describe to me your house.
Yeah.
Describe to me your house, what's it like? Have you got, back garden? How big is it? All that sort of stuff. And then sort of say, okay, so, does the neighbour ever come out and bother you when you're in the back garden? That sort of, go down that route. But yeah, at that time, that's where I was going to go. But yeah, it got quite intense.
We learned, don't we, from it? But yeah, it's so easy to, people just pick up on one little thing, especially when they're so, they're emotional about the situation. It's
because even though they're small things to us, they sound quite small, don't they? When I smoke outside, my neighbour has a go at me, or he has a go at me when I park my car there. They're all small, but for these people, they've become massively big and taken over their lives. And
I'm not surprised after 10 years.
I wasn't the longest one I've had, but I'm pretty sure. As I said to the other day, it might have been Liz. That why is it you seem to save up the difficult ones for me? That's what it feels like.
They all think they've got the worst
Yeah, this one's been going for 12 years. Oh, now I know why you're giving it to me. But yeah, so you said at any one time you got, was it 70 cases opened?
Between sort of 65 and 70 at the minute.
So how does the sort of referral process work? So I'm working for, Chris Breeden Homes, and I've got a couple of tenants that got a bit of a problem, and I want to come and get a mediator to sort it. How's that work?
We've just changed our case management system, which we're all we're all frantically working to get the. I'm saying we. I don't mean we. I mean the team back at the office are frantically trying to get all the cases onto the new system. So what we've got now going forward, which is really exciting, is that the referrers can sign up. They make an account, so they register an account with CaseDoc, and it's a self-service portal. And then every time they want to make a referral, they'll log into that account. If they want to just check where the cases are at, there's a little they'll have a list, and then it'll show which stage. It doesn't show all the notes and everything, because obviously it's confidential. It's a confidential process, but they can see where their cases are at. So which stage, there's like 5 or 6 stages. So they'll be able to see where it's at and whether the cases are still open and things like that. And it's really secure. And the referral process, you just click submit referral and then fill the details in. We try and keep it as brief as possible, because the mediators, as you know, like to work from a blank slate most of the time in that first meeting. Usually the issue is nothing to do with what the referrer puts in that box. It goes way further back than that. So it's useful to just put something really brief, like noise complaint going back 2 years normally, or something like that by the time they come in. But obviously if there's any risk or any support needs or anything like that, that's really important to put in. But it's quite a quick form. It's the parties. We need their phone number and their email address more than anything. And then they submit it and it comes through. And now with our new case management system, it's pre-populated. All the information is where it's meant to be, so we're not having to do it manually, which we've been having to do. So that's all there. Then we'll acknowledge the referral with the referrer to sort of reassure them that we're working on the case. Contact the parties that same day or the following day, and that's where it starts. The challenge of trying to get hold of the parties, trying to get their availability. There's a lot of I'm available after 6, because we mediate between sort of 8 in the morning and 9 at night, so that we can be available for people who are working and everything. But a very common one is like I'm available at 6 p.m. and the neighbour will be available at 9 a.m. which isn't so bad for the initial meetings, but when you know you're going to have to bring them together eventually for a joint meeting, you just know in advance it's going to be challenging. So there's lots of challenges around getting availability, getting them to, and encouraging them really to even take part in the mediation. And then we'll have a look and see when the mediators are available and whether that what matches up with the parties' availability. Do the initial meetings, and then hopefully the mediators will work their magic and they'll want to go to a joint meeting, and then probably a week or so later they'll have a joint meeting. And then there's a feedback and follow-up process after that.
So for the people who are watching that have never heard of mediation before, the process is essentially, isn't it? They come to you with a referral, then we speak to one of the participants, then we speak to the next participant, making sure that we don't say anything that has been said to us previously. We get them to agree to come to a joint mediation. Then they come to the joint mediation, which is where the sort of mediator does the hard yards of trying to get them to come to a solution that they can then live with going forward. And then we present that solution back to you, and the participants decide who gets to see that solution. And that's it in a nutshell, really, isn't it?
It sounds very simple when you put it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like you said, herding cats, though, is the difficult bit. And so, again, for community mediation, it can take many forms. So tell us about how some of the participants, how they run those meetings, over what sort of medium, face-to-face or whatever.
I believe before I joined Smile, all the meetings were in person. So mediators were, so the job was organising for mediators to go to people's houses, sit with them for an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, do their initial meeting where they just listen and really understand the party's perspective, and then go to the other house and do that initial meeting, hopefully, if they were both available at the same time, which would be handy. And then find a neutral space in a community centre as near to the people's homes as possible and do the joint meetings there. But then the pandemic hit and we could no longer do that. I say we, that were before I came. So when I came along, most of the work had moved online. They'd had a listening service during the pandemic, so they got funding for a listening service, which went really well. And then when we came back to doing the mediation fully, most people chose to stay via Zoom. We use Zoom. We found it easier for the parties to access Zoom. And yeah, most people choose. We do whatever we can to get the parties to engage. So if they're really adamant they don't want to do Zoom, we've got a telephone conferencing facility, or we can do in person, face to face. Yeah.
It's got to be more efficient for the mediators as well, isn't it? Because obviously mediators are all volunteers. They're all doing it pro bono. And so if a mediator can spend an hour on a Zoom call or an hour on a conference call, it's so much easier than travelling somewhere doing the
it's
meeting.
Time as well, isn't it? They can just turn their computer on and they're there. And the participants feel safer as well, I think. We've had more engagement since. There's no mediators turning up having driven for 45 minutes and the people are hiding behind the sofa because they don't want to let anybody in. So you don't have any of that. They're more likely to just switch their laptop on or their phone even. They can access it from anywhere. So
again, so for all those people listening or watching, we can sit there and say, they can do it by telephone, in person. They can do it over Zoom or Teams.
Yeah.
And they don't even, at the joint meeting, do they? They don't even actually have to be with the same person in the joint meeting. You can do the shuttle mediation where the mediator's going back and forth.
We don't advocate for that.
Yeah, most of us don't like doing that at all. It's I won't say it's too much like hard work, but it's just
we don't get the same
work.
outcomes because people can't see each other's. They can't see the impact that the situation's having. They can't. So I've done a couple of shuttles and I've just thought, if you would just say that, they'll say, oh, I've got really bad mental health, it's really impacting on me, and they'll sit there crying and, and you'll really think, it's such a shame that your neighbour doesn't know this, but they're saying, I don't want my neighbour to know this. And no matter how many times you say, do you not think it would help? No, absolutely not, because they'll be happy about it, because there's all those assumptions going on. But you just know if they were sat there in the same room, they would say it. Oh, I've been caring for my mum. She's been really ill. She's in and out of care homes and things like that. But I don't want my neighbour to know that. You know that if they were together, they would say, well, you don't know my mum's ill, that type of thing. So it just doesn't have the same.
No, because that is, I think you hit the nail on the head. That is key to all the forms of mediation. I think that seeing the impact that this conflict is having on the other person, or maybe understanding how your action, no matter how unintentional, is impacted on the neighbour or the other person, it is often what starts to break down that wall when you sit back and go, and I know, because this is what it was like when I had my sort of workplace mediation event with the RAF. It's like, I didn't realise it was going to land quite like that. And it's impossible to portray that, isn't it, when you're just shuttling back and forth and saying, well, the other person said this.
Yeah.
And it's half a story, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's so time consuming as well. You don't realise how much time it's going to take when you start. So you'll be talking to the first person and they'll talk to you for, if you're lucky, about 10-15 minutes, but then you go and you reframe it and do what you need to do, relay that information with the other party, but then you have to hear their side, then you have to go back, and it's just 2 hours isn't long enough, but you can't really go on for longer than 2 hours because it's just too much.
Yeah, it's too draining, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then of course, because you're having to reframe, you're not telling the whole story, and you're going back, and then they start probably thinking that you're on the other person's side.
Yeah.
Did you tell them what I said?
Yeah.
Well, I did, but I sort of like put it in my own words, and you start to lose the impact. I'm with you. Yeah, shuttle mediation is not the way ahead, I don't think.
No.
Really. I think it has its purpose sometimes, but I think more so in so commercial mediation probably.
Or as an extra stage, so sometimes it can help to have the shuttle and then use that to sort of start the process, but then move to joint meeting after that.
Yeah, because you could use a shuttle part, couldn't you? And then you could sort of explain to people, you can really see how this isn't working, or how it might be better if you just got together. And by the time they've sort of got a lot of the things off their chest, they understand that you're not the enemy, that you can be trusted, and that you can create a safe space. It starts to persuade them to actually sit down and talk to the neighbour. So we spoke about community mediation, which is sort of Smile's big bread and butter, but you don't just do that, do you?
No, so we're a charity, which I probably should have mentioned at the beginning, but we're a charity and a social enterprise. So anything that we make goes directly back into the organisation. So we do workplace as well, but we also do a lot of work in the communities, sort of connecting communities and sort of building people's capacities to communicate effectively and get better outcomes, like I mentioned earlier, from conversations and things like that. So we always on the lookout for opportunities and funding and grants to be able to do that. That's part of our charitable objects. So as long as what we're doing is in line with our charitable objects, we're always looking for different ways to support people to connect and communicate and prevent, manage and resolve conflict.
And so in the process then, so we mentioned previously a housing provider can log into your account, but I'm guessing you have some sort of contract with housing providers. I couldn't just, as Chris Breeden Homes, decide I want to buy into your business. So if I'm a housing provider out there, or a council that have council houses, what's the process for getting Smile involved with helping me sort my issues?
So we do sort of spot purchase or pay as you go. So you could just refer in. We'd have to have a conversation first so that we could send the links and everything. But I'm always there to have a conversation with housing providers. I had one yesterday. Just a Teams chat and a brew about and just a chat about what what their needs are and what we can offer and how we can offer it, because we need to make sure that what we're sort of able to provide is what they're looking for, and you know, it's important to be on the same page really. So yeah, 20 minutes coffee and chat with me over Teams to just chat through everything, because there's not just mediation, there's conflict coaching, as you know, for one party. So where they can't get both parties to engage, we can still work with the other party, which a lot of people are surprised about when I talk to them. They're like, oh right, and then you see them writing it down because they don't realise. So it's important to be able to have them discussions. We get a lot of emails saying, can you just send us how much your prices, but I think it's important to be able to chat through what they're actually going to be paying for, and things like that. So
because there's a lot of misunderstanding out there, isn't it? So that they need to be fully appreciative of what it is you can and can't provide.
Yeah.
Compared to somebody else down the road, I suppose. Yeah. So who are the sort of organisations then that come to you for like workplace mediation? How does that arise?
I mean, anybody can come to us for workplace mediation. Factories, manufacturing people, offices, HR. I'm talking to about 3 different HR companies now who are considering sort of partnering with us, and so we can sort of understand each other's businesses, organisations a lot better, and maybe sort of refer people to each other. Anyone really, anybody who's having a conflict in the workplace. It might be managers and their staff, or it might be the owner of the business and their managers, or it could be people on the shop floor. We had a local one to Burnley, probably about 8-9 months ago now, where they were working on a shop floor and it was one quality control person and one engineer. So they both want the best thing for the business. They both really want the business to succeed. They want to do the best job, but their priorities were completely different. And that had caused a lot of assumptions to start being made. I think that's the main thing that develops sort of how you're feeling when you're in a conflict. You just assume that the other person is doing everything they're doing to wind you up. I've done it myself, because you're not having that conversation. So I think one person needed the machine fixing by the engineer to be able to get this product flowing through faster, but the other person had another priority. I can't remember what it was now, but yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, we were able to, myself and Kath that went, and we were able to just, as soon as people start talking, sometimes you can just see oh, I didn't realise that. And then it's just sort of teasing it all out from there really, and getting it all down on an agreement.
Yeah. So you also provide some training courses as well.
Yeah.
And what are they?
We train people to become mediators. So we do the 5-day level 3 mediation skills programme, but we also do mediation skills for the housing sector. As you know, you delivered it for us. That's a 3-day programme. We've got a 2-day mediation skills programme, and we've got a 1-day refresher. We've got conflict coaching skills. That's running in April. No, it's not. It's running in June. I'm going to have another drink. I'm not doing so bad, really.
That's right. You're doing very well. So there's much more to Smile, isn't there? Than I think a lot of people out there might look and go, oh, they do community mediation, charitable organisation, but you do work in a community that seems to make people be able to communicate with each other better, cutting down conflict. Obviously, you do the community mediations themselves when neighbours have fallen out, or people have fallen out with a housing provider.
Sorry.
Workplace mediations that we all know and love. And then you back all of that up with delivering mediation training for your own mediators and other people, conflict coaching, and a course to help people, mediators, conflict coach. and 1, 2 or 3, a 1-day refresher, a 2-day mediation skills, and a 3-day mediation skills.
Yeah. Did you say dialogue without drama while I was coughing?
I didn't do dialogue without drama while you were coughing. So it's a whole sort of suite of things that people can come to Smile for and work. And so I often get people say to me, because they know that we work relatively closely together, about, but they're your competitors, and it's like 68 million people in this country. Every one of them going to go through conflicts in their own time, and none of us can cover it all. And I think we actually have quite a good relationship in that you give me some of the training to deliver. I do some mediations for you. Yeah. We've got our course coming up end of April. I think we've offered some places up for you guys as well to help expand your mediation capacity. So, there's lots of work out there for people. There is. Does it ever surprise you the number of organisations out there that especially like housing organisations, that have never heard of or don't touch mediation?
Yeah, I think housing providers and local authorities are starting to sort of pick up on it now. We're getting more and more and more sort of inquiries, especially because we're so close with Resolve. We're always sort of promoting it to housing providers. But I think it surprises me more the businesses and the amount of businesses there are that don't even, they stand in front of my stand and they'll say, Smile Mediation. And I'll be like, no, mediation. And then it's, oh, right, so you help people who have had a divorce to communicate. I'm like, no, I don't want to get into that side of things. But then, you're explaining and they're like, oh, well, what like managers falling out with their staff? I'm like, anybody who's having a conflict in the workplace. That's what surprises me more. There's so much work we could be doing, and so much money we could be saving. Businesses and organisations that, I'm just trying to get. That's what I'm sort of I'm going out networking, joining selective sort of there's lots of networking about, isn't there? So I'm trying to decide which ones are going to be help me to get the word out there as best as possible. So I think that's more of a surprise, really.
Yeah, we do the same. So Tracy and I obviously would go out and do quite a few business shows during the year. So we just started now having a bet with each other at the start of the show, how many people come up and say meditation.
Yeah.
Or how far you can get into a conversation before somebody realises that you're talking about something completely different, as they're trying to put what you're saying into their vision of meditation. It's the same for every show.
You look very zen though, Chris.
That'll be it. Yeah. It's like my joss sticks or whatever burning in the background or whatever. But it's and we have that conversation as well. At the shows, the number of people who are like, oh well, there's no conflict in my organisation. So, oh well, then you're probably part of the problem then if you think there is none. And it's that hidden cost that people don't appreciate. And we were talking with Amy and James in the previous episode about being efficient. And then if you've got a conflict going on at work, what you need to step back and measure is, rather than the price of a mediator, which can vary depending on who you get and what circumstances are on. But we'll just say, for argument's sake, a mediator will cost you £1,000. It's how long that conflict has been going on for. How long have HR or the manager been dealing with that conflict? And you don't employ HR necessarily to deal with conflict. You get them to do other things. And your managers are meant to be managing the productivity within the business or whatever, and not dealing with people's conflicts, etc. But I find pretty much every mediation I do in the workplace, at some point, one or at least one, maybe two of the participants have gone sick. Yeah. And then they're not at work for X weeks or months. You're paying those bills, like statutory sick pay, etc. But you're still paying out a lot of money. And it's making people understand that the quicker we can get this done, and it's the same for community mediation, isn't it? The quicker we can get in there and help solve that problem, the better everyone's life is going to be. Yeah,
definitely. I did a session a few weeks ago where I did a calculation, and I said if two people are in conflict for 3 months, and they're on £25,000 each a year, probably, part-time, whatever. Just the productivity alone, according to ACAS, it's like between 15 and 25% drop in productivity. Give that £2,500 just in that 3 months, and that's without any of the other stuff that you mentioned. So, yeah, the sickness and the management time and the HR time and all that type of thing. So it's expensive.
It's always my response to the question I get when people come down to you explain the process to them. You try not to be too pushy, and then it comes down to that $64,000 question: is how much is this going to cost me? And I always just reply back of how much has it cost you already?
Yeah.
And then you get that look on their face and they're like, well, it hasn't cost me anything already. So it has. How long have we been on this phone call? We've been on this phone call maybe an hour. I'm explaining the whole process to you. That's an hour of your time. This conflict is already happening. How many times have you spoken? Have you tried a facilitated chat, which invariably don't go very well because no one's trained to do it? So add up all those costs. Have these people been sick? Are they likely to continue to go sick? And it's like, that's all your hidden costs. So compare it to if I say I'm going to do it for £1,000. Yeah, on the face of it, it's a lot of money, but you've got to compare that to other money. And then I had one a couple of months ago, went through this whole process, and the person was like, well, I can get mediators that are cheaper. I'm like, well, fill your boots.
Yeah.
I'm
give it a go.
Yeah. And you say you don't do it for the money. Clearly, I run a business that's for profit business. But I know both of us do it because helping people solve those problems and watching that stress evaporate from their body is payment enough, isn't it? Especially in communities where there's no, at least in workplace almost, when you go home, you're away from it.
Yeah.
Even though you're thinking about it all the time. But when you're in a community and you're stuck living next door or above or below that person,
hyper focusing on everything that your neighbour's doing and getting more and more worked up, losing sleep. It's not a nice sort of situation to be in.
So you've got 93 mediators on your books, managing all of this. How do you keep in contact with those mediators? How do you sort of support them in their role? Because obviously they're not coming into the office every day, and you might not see many for a few weeks or whatever.
So we're very lucky to have got that funding for Ange to be a wellbeing facilitator is the role's title. She's constantly contacting mediators, setting up one-to-ones to have a chat with them, how they're feeling. Not just about, just really getting to know them really and what's going on for them and how they're feeling about Smile and all that type of thing. And yeah, so she's also on the lookout for sort of continuous professional development opportunities, training and that type of thing. Supervisions, group supervisions every sort of 8 to 12 weeks that we cap those at 8 people. So 8 mediators so that everybody can go through. We say bring a few challenging cases, but we soon realise that they're all quite challenging. So it's good that everybody can talk about their case if they want to. New mediators and mediators that have been with us for a lot longer. It's good when we get a mix of people in the room, in the Zoom room. So yeah, they're really helpful. I think people found those really useful. Anything else? Can you think of anything else?
It provides like a support network, doesn't it? So if you had to have a tough mediation, you can talk it through with other mediators, and they can say, well, actually, I thought you did quite well there, or maybe they say, oh, maybe try this approach next, or whatever. So, it helps you feel better about yourself if you've had a tough mediation, but also provides a bit of CPD, doesn't it? That you can learn from other mediators in the room, and not just the experienced mediators. Some of the new mediators arrive with just new ideas and new techniques. So they're really enjoyable sessions. So you pick the right set of people first. You give them their mediation training. They can get CPD by doing any one of the courses that you offer. They can come to resilience chats, either one-on-one or with a group of us to talk through bits and pieces. And then you have your annual get-together conference.
Yeah.
So tell us about those.
Our conference, well, the last couple of years we've had them in Burnley because that's where we're based. That's where we were born. We were commissioned originally in 1997 to start to build the communities back up after the Burnley riots that you might have heard about. Massive riots in Burnley. But this sort of developed into sort of around race, but I think they probably weren't initially about that. But yeah, it really divided the community. So we were brought in to sort of try and help build those relationships back up. Can't even remember what your first question, what your question was now.
We're talking about the conference. You know,
Oh yeah, I don't. Yeah, so that's where that's sort of where we had it based. But now that we've gone national, we're looking at moving it to Manchester this time. It's where our highest concentration of mediators are. And yeah, it's just we get speakers on. Yourself, you've spoken at the last couple, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
And last year we had Stonewater, a housing provider, to talk through. Generally, the people that have been coming have been mediators and antisocial behaviour teams, which can tend to be like one's sort of an enforcer and the other's a mediator. So there's been some really colourful discussions at those. It's been really I don't know what the word is. Interesting conversations. So yeah, we're looking at, I think it's the 2nd of October this year in Manchester, and that's as far as we've got. We've got quite a few plans that we're not announcing yet that will run alongside that conference as well.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
cool. Interesting.
Based.
Interesting. So getting close to rounding up now. So thinking back over the time and leaving home, etc., what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Gotta be there for quite a while. I'm not too sure. Just things will work out. Just go with it. Things will be okay in the end. There'll be some ups and downs, but
A bit of positivity.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So really difficult questions now. The last 2 or 3 that I told you about I was going to ask anyway, because everyone's really interested that knows all about you.
Yeah.
Is what's your favourite tipple?
At the moment, I'm really liking a very pale rosé, but I also like a very full-bodied red wine as well, depending on what mood I'm in. So like a Montepulciano or a Valpolicella or a Malbec. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Your favourite food?
Cheese.
Cheese, yeah.
Everyone knows that.
Red wine and cheese, yeah. Yeah. Can't be beaten. I think I know the answer to this already. Cats or dogs?
Well, it's got to be dogs because I've got a dog, but I also like cats a lot too. I used to have a cat. I'm not anti-cat.
No, you can only choose one, so it's going to be dogs, yeah?
Yeah.
And you've got a grand dog as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rocco.
Yeah. Cool. Right then, so there I'm out there. Our viewers, they want to get in contact with Smile. What's the best way of doing it?
So you can call 01282 436 989 or email me. Shall I say my email address?
If you want,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's smile-limited or ltd.co.uk.
Cool. Well, we'll have that put at the end of the podcast. So thank you for that. It's been great getting to know you even better than I do already. And we'll get this all done and dusted and published at some point.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.